Children's Dimetapp knows the sick day struggle is real. But it doesn't have to be. When sickness strikes, Children's Dimetapp works safely and quickly to relieve cough and other cold symptoms. And your kiddos won't run from its yuck-free sweet grape flavor. Trusted by parents for over 50 years. Children's Dimetapp, your stress-less sick day solution. Use as directed.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Back with another episode of The Blue Turf. This is Thad Bell. With me, Eric Bergrud. Man that is on the move, always going somewhere, and will soon be traveling to Utica, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Okay. I was like, I want to make sure that that was not leaking something. You've already said that, though, right?
No, Nick already said that. I haven't said it. I guess
Okay.
if Nick broke some news that wasn't public, so we'll just kind of let that go.
I've heard it from somewhere, but not you, because obviously I've not heard it from you.
Right.
All right, we are back. Last time we talked was after the win against Chihuahua, and they've got 2 games since then, Harrisburg and Dallas. Reverse that. Win in Dallas, and they win at home against Harrisburg. Win at Dallas was not as pretty as we would hope, but it was a win.
Well, we said on last week's episode that the Chihuahua win wouldn't matter if they didn't take care of business in those 2 coming games, and they did, just not in the way you might have expected. Last minute heroics, a little bit of luck. And what's interesting is the Dallas game coincided with Brian Baczynski's interview on my 10 for 10 show. And I asked him, what is it going to take for the Comets to go all the way this year? And one of the first things he said was a little luck. A little luck is Nacho being in the right place at the right time at the end of the game when a ball that's supposed to be cleared out of the zone bops off a Dallas defender, lands on his feet, and then he kicks it one-on-one on the goalkeeper and seals the win for the Comets. But those are the bounces you need to go all the way. And good things happen to teams that put themselves in good positions to win.
Now, they struggled. They did not play well. Coach criticized them afterwards, made the comment that, you have to go 2 goals down in order to play the way you should. Some things like that. Now, I'm going to take the opposite side. I'm going to be a little positive for a second.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I've watched teams like Chihuahua, San Diego be down in the last 5 minutes and come back and win games. I don't know how many times, right? This is what happens sometimes in indoor. It happens in any sport. I think there's a team that plays another sport in Kansas City. Has got a big game this weekend. It is notorious for being down in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and coming back and winning those games. I'm not saying that's where you want to be. You would love to just dominate and cruise and have it be easy, but good teams sometimes are good not because they're always dominant, but because they can come back and win games. They can turn up another notch when they need to. And I feel like the Comets took a step against Chihuahua, and then in this game against Dallas, that they showed, hey, we can have a really bad game. We can play not all of our players and then take a win.
From a coach's perspective, it's never good enough, right?
Right.
From a fan's perspective, many people want to win by style points,
Right.
which is we need to beat everybody by 5 goals, 10 goals, and then we can feel good about ourselves. Ultimately, none of this matters unless you get 3 points. So for me, I'd rather have an ugly 3 point victory than some any other result than that. Played your best and lost in overtime or won in overtime doesn't really matter because ultimately, as you look in the standings, it's 3 points versus 3 points versus 3 points. San Diego, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, dropped a point against Tacoma, winning in overtime. That sets up Kansas City now with an opportunity to leapfrog them this
Yep.
week. And so winning ugly is just fine at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I exactly. I remember you'll know this off the top of your head, but whichever year it was, the Comets like went undefeated. They were just destroying teams under Vlaco, and
2015.
and it was actually kind of boring to go to the arena because like okay, they're gonna win 21-4, things like that. It's like yeah, it was exciting to win a lot at first, but after halfway through the season, it's like okay, a little competition would be kind of nice.
And does anybody remember that season?
Oh, I do for that
No,
reason.
but you know where I'm going with this,
Yep.
right? You lose the final. Was it worth it? It's kind of like the year the Patriots went undefeated and lost in the Super Bowl. Does anybody reminisce about that anymore? Like that was one of the
No.
best seasons ever because ultimately it's the end prize. Did you come home with the trophy?
Yeah, this if this was you know, football in Europe, yes, you care because then you win, you're at the top of the table. But otherwise, it is just the final trophy that really cares. I don't really care about Eastern Conference trophies, Western Conference trophies, participation trophies. I don't care about any of that. The final trophy is what really matters. So when people get crowned with the Western Conference trophy in the NFL, I don't care. It's the Super Bowl. That's the one that matters.
Well, and if you think about all the years that Kansas City has hosted professional indoor soccer, there's only three, one, two, three of those big trophies in all that time. That should be the ultimate prize, not a you played well, yeah, kind of like a makeup trophy for being a good team. Nobody's going to care about that. Ultimately, it's did you get the trophy? Did you get to celebrate with your fans? And that's what the ultimate goal is here.
All right, so now going back to the Dallas game, a couple things to stand out. You mentioned Nacho got that goal, the game winner. Um, he also he came on really strong at the end, and with a couple goals and just his play. He's had some, I don't want to say struggles this year, but he's not been as good as he was at times last year. And he just came out over the last couple games and is really just expressed himself as the leader of the team again.
Well, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, and is now an all-star to boot. And
I
so
know.
I think you can see how valuable he is to this team. You can also see how valuable he is in terms of when he was selected uh, by Team Pereira, that he's a valuable cog in this machine, and the leadership he brings on the field and off the field. This is Nacho's team, personality wise.
No doubt. And another young man who has stepped up, Nathan Dirtle.
Yeah,
He's
and I think he's locked in his position. Nick and I've been talking about him the last several games in terms of what he's brought. You start with the Chihuahua game, going left and scoring his first ever professional goal against arguably the best defense in the MASL, and he stepped it up against Dallas and once again against Harrisburg. And so this is somebody as a rookie. He doesn't show fear out there, and
No,
that's what you want to see.
yeah, he's been really impressive. All right, anything else to say about Dallas? Move to Harrisburg.
Well, we went into that game respecting Dallas's um, yeah, home field advantage. They were 0-8 on the road going in and 3-0 at home, but it's been a rough recent stretch here for Dallas, losing not only to Kansas City, but then a rough weekend losing to Texas Outlaws and UCFC. And so Dallas has some serious problems now.
That they do. It kind of just glossed over the fact that Texas actually won a game. Wow.
And you can't turn back the clock, but if Dallas had held on, I think that it might have changed their mindset for that Texas game. But they are definitely deflated right now. And so a season can hinge on just one game, one turnover. And I'd say on this one, it was probably that one turnover at the end.
Yep.
You hold Kansas City to overtime, and no matter which way it goes, you can take some solace out of it. But you go from being a 3-point victory to 2 or 1 to nothing to show for it. That's pretty demoralizing.
And it demolishes your home field streak.
Yep.
So bad. All right, moving on to the Harrisburg game. Another a good strong match there for the Comets with a lot of players not playing. There was some injuries. There were some players that had picked up the flu or something, and I think they were just some rest also.
Yeah,
Uh,
we start in goal. Nicolau Neto returned and pitched a first half shutout, and you had Leo Acosta resting. You had Lucia Tetsane, who was listed as probable resting, and a good opportunity for some of the younger players. Leo Palma, Joe Wainwright, and Wainwright, for me, impressed in his first appearance for the Comets. So you saw a mix of players. I think that it's important for Coach Stokic for guys to get some legs in a real game situation because you know that injuries can hit you at the most inopportune moments, and the next person needs to stand up. We saw Nathan Dirtle get that opportunity and make the most of it,
yep.
but that wasn't the original plan. You get Marcel Berry out with a season-ending injury, Lucas Souza with a nagging knee injury, and all of a sudden there's opportunity there in the midfield.
Yeah, I think he's got both knees hurt now, quite honestly, but I'm not totally sure, so I don't want to. That's not really news there, but um, in that game, I mean, you mentioned the two guys who got their first games, but a guy who's had some time in the past, Eric Pereira. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right,
Yep.
but I thought he looked really strong, man. I thought he was really good in that game, and he hasn't had a lot of time, but I think he's made a case to be right on that edge of being out there as a defender, also.
Well, he's made the most of his opportunity transitioning from St. Louis to Kansas City, and I think that I've seen market improvement this year over last year. He had an opportunity. Neto, I thought, looked very strong and confident in goal after having not. Well, he came in at the end of the Dallas game, but not that many real minutes going back to that Milwaukee game in December, and so he looked confident in there. I think you mentioned Nacho with the Dallas game. Nacho once again was really strong against Harrisburg. And what can you say about Rion Marquez?
Yeah, he was a monster in all the positive ways. Uh, yeah, it was just. I mean, it was a good game for most of the players. They could have obviously done a little bit better against a team that they should win against, but again, you can never really say that. Daniel Malhu got two assists.
His best game by far. Got two
Yeah,
assists, one on a
had
Wallace scorer. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the ball to go in the net because he showed confidence shooting from both feet
yep.
on Sunday, and he's starting to get himself in the right positions on the field. It just it feels like once the floodgates open, then I expect him to step up to that next level.
He had another really good opportunity just breaking in on goal too that he got stuffed, but I mean it was a nice attempt to go under the goalie, I believe, and he just got stopped. But he looked good too, man. He's another guy who, like you said, just once the floodgates open, he could be scoring a lot. But
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of people got in the action. You mentioned Nathan Dirtle earlier. He got in. Rion, multiple goals, hat trick for him. Nacho. I mean, it was spread out in terms of who got on the score sheet, and I think that's what you want to see is a more balanced distribution of the goals. Although no one should be complaining about Rion Marquez hat tricks. Let
no,
him keep having the hat tricks all he wants, and he he's legit MVP candidate at this point.
yeah, I would totally agree. Another guy we just didn't mention was Ramon Palmer. Got a couple of goals in that game. I think it was the Chihuahua game we remarked how good he was looking. Was it
Yeah,
I don't think anybody looked good in the Dallas game, except Nacho at the end. Uh, well, and we mentioned Dirtle, but overall the game wasn't good. But Ramon looked really good in this last game, and I have a little bit of trivia from Mike Kuhn about him.
really.
The next game he plays, he's gonna. It's not like some big official record, but he's gonna kind of achieve a milestone here in Kansas City.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
All right, guys, so check this out. Have you ever heard of Goldbelly? Okay, so it's this amazing site where you can order the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the country, and they will ship it straight to your door. That's right, these guys will ship you Philly cheesesteaks from Jim's or Pat's in Philly, buffalo wings from the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, and even Kansas City's most legendary barbecue. So if you're looking to host an epic Super Bowl party, go to GoBelly.com and get free shipping and 20% off your first order with promo code GameDay.
He will equal the number of appearances that Kim played for Kansas City. Kim
That's
Rutherford.
that's pretty amazing. And so what's really impressive about this? I mean, it's impressive and yet it's telling. So Ramon's been doing this in seasons that when he first started were 20 games and are now 24 games.
Right.
When Runfed played, he started at 48 and then they were at 52, 56 in the MISL era, although he had some nagging injuries there. But what this tells you is we like to reminisce about the MISL era. A lot of these guys weren't playing for Kansas City that many years.
Right.
So they piled up all these appearances in 3 or 4 seasons. Ramon Palmer has been doing this over a decade. And so if you talk about longevity and impact on the soccer community, you can make arguments for Ramon Palmer, Leo Gibson, Berto while he was here. That I mean, their staying power in Kansas City is way longer than some of the people who are glorified from that earliest era.
No, I totally agree. We need to like a little formula that we can equal number of games, balance like number of games versus number of seasons versus what your league played and, come up with some formula for who was the best guy or not the best, but the most impact maybe.
Yeah, and it's really impressive. And remember, Ramon got went to Tacoma for a year with Alan Matango and Berto, so he missed 1 year, and then he had another year he missed because of visa issues, and he's still an all-time leader. I mean that speaks a lot because if you pull those 2 years back in, then he's really really high up in the record book.
Yeah, it's sometimes easy just to forget how long a lot of these guys have played for the team. In my mind, I still see Christian Andereos as a young guy, but this is his fourth season with the team, and he's went through a couple of iterations of a little bit of his role. But he's a diehard with the team, and you just have all these other guys that have played so much for Kansas City and sometimes elsewhere.
Well, and we've talked before about how long it's been since Vlatko's team won the championship. That was
Yep.
the 13-14 season. Ramon Palmer, the last remaining Comet
Yep.
who was part of that team, and so he's still going strong. And in fact, you could argue that the last season and a half have been two of his best years in that expanse.
A few more years, we're going to be measuring people by how old they are by if they played on a team with Stokic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should tell him that.
Well, you could, since you've got an interview opportunity with him, and see what kind of response you get.
We will see. I'm usually just I'm brave enough to say those things. But anyway, moving on. They won the game. They came out of it healthy. Nobody hurt worse, I believe. So they still have people recovering. But now we have uh should we go to the next game or should we go to that big game
No,
next
let's
week?
go to the let's just chronologically. Let's go to San Diego, and then we can
I'm
talk
good with
about
that.
yeah next week. Yep.
Huge game, obviously. Team right next to them in the standings, a team that they lost to not too long ago, and that if they want to be at the top, need to show that they can beat San Diego or at least take them to overtime and get points at the very least. But a win would be really good. How do you see that game coming out, man?
I got asked almost that same question that I was on Soccer's podcast yesterday, just for a few minutes, and I've gone on the last couple years during Kansas City week, and I was asked that same question, and to me, I see the Sockers trying to come out controlling the tempo, and then Kansas City adjusting. San Diego's not coming in with any fear. They're a confident team. They're a stacked team, and as I told Craig Elston and Tony Sanchez last night, when you have Gabriel Costa tied for sixth in scoring on your team, you've got a really good team. So you have arguably one of the best midfielders in the entire team, and he's not even top five there. Um, just a lot of talent on multiple lines. And so it's not just going to be that first line that needs to succeed that. It's going to have to be the second line and then the guys who get odd shifts. Everybody's got to bring their A game. I think that they're gonna try to figure out what do they do with Rion. Are we going to double him or what? I would expect Zach's going to need to step up offensively, just based on how they might game plan Rion. And then it's going to be the midfielders who's going to make those runs off the targets. Because if the goal is to lock down the targets, it's going to be maybe a chance for a Danny Malhu. It's going to be a Henry Ramirez. It's going to be somebody like that, a Nathan Dirtle, who's going to have to make that run and make that play, because this is a team that is definitely built to go all the way, and they know it, and they're not afraid to tell you that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be if I was them either, but they've, again, it's, teams when they open new stadiums often try to get really stacked so they can have great success. Plus, but the Sockers have been great over the however many years as they are. They've had some close games though. I mean, they won 4-3 over Tacoma in their last game, in overtime. They did destroy Texas 10-3. They beat Empire 7-5. So they have not been just blowing people out, even as good as they are.
Yeah, but they also, like Kansas City, had a signature win against Chihuahua. They went 0 against Chihuahua last season and proved finally that they could beat them, which I think was critical. I don't expect them to employ load management. They have St. Louis the next night, but I don't see them saying, "Oh, we're going to rest here and there." I
No.
think Kansas City's the game they've got to focus on for a variety of reasons, including the risk that if you lose to Kansas City leapfrogs you in the standings. Uh, for Kansas City, I mean, it's even though we didn't have a great game out at Front Wave last month, this is our home. We know that we can defend this. We don't have any fears. We beat the Sockers here and there last year. We just have to execute our game plan, and everything will take care of itself. Mistakes, we've talked about them all year, Thad. The little things, you can't do those against San Diego. You can't be kicking balls out of play, getting top of the arc restarts. You can't be getting silly, too many men on the field penalties. You gotta get those out of your mindset, and just let the opportunity for your game plan to carry forward.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say the exact same things to them, but they've been extremely good, extremely solid. Comets have been, they're only a couple points apart, so they're not that much different as far as the standings go. Uh, San Diego hasn't lost since what, the first game back in December, or not outright loss. So they're a good team, and I think both teams have this game circled to that's the next must-win game, as you would sometimes say.
Well, yeah, and these are the games that demonstrate whether you're championship caliber or not. These are the games you have to win at home against the big teams, and this is that game. This big team that you're looking at. I would anticipate Ejimadu back in goal. Now, I don't read much into everything, but I did notice on today's Comet social media post where they're trying to get people excited about the game. I saw Ejimadu in the graphic. I don't assume that was coach approved, but you never know. Um, but I would anticipate he'll be starting. I would expect to see Tetsane back. I would expect to see Acosta back. I mean, we'll see who's healthy and who's not, but
Right.
ultimately, this is you want your best 16 out there, and may the better team win.
I expect Philip to be back out there. Yes, I don't have any argument with that. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be back out there. Coach even essentially said I don't say essentially said, he said Philip is the number one now, and Neto's trying to catch up to him. Neto has been battling injuries all year, and he's finally feeling healthy. I talked to him after the last game about that too. So he's not back into the groove 100%, but he's healthy. He's had injuries in a couple spots, and they basically had to just rest him to let him get back. So that's
Right.
part of why Philip got starts, but then Philip's been hot, so that's made it really easy to keep him going.
Right. And in the end, and I've said this in previous episodes, you have to put your best players or the players who give you the best opportunity to win at any particular point out on the field. And particularly in this game. You may have had the luxury to be a little bit creative against Harrisburg. You don't have that luxury against San Diego.
No. And I would say they do not either in reverse. So,
Yep.
to be fair. All right. San Diego will be at Kansas City on Friday.
Yep.
Friday, right? Yep. And I will be there. You will be there. But next week, you plan on
Allegedly.
traveling. I don't know if you'll be doing anything while you're there, but you plan on traveling, I believe, to the All-Star game. Had the draft last night. I didn't get to watch it live, so I went back and watched it on YouTube. But it was a little fun watching that. What do you think of those teams?
So, I mean, other than me joking that it's going to be a 15-14 game, I don't think there'll be that many goals, but it was interesting. The format is both teams had to go forward in the first two rounds, then defender, and then goalkeeper. And then after that, it was wide open. And so it was really telling. Nick Pereira won the coin toss. So Pereira, he's the team captain for Team Pereira. Stefan Stokic is the head coach. Pereira gets the pick. They go with Rion as their first player. That tells you a lot, considering who Pereira is as well. And so they've got
Right.
target to start that. And that shows a lot of respect for Rion. And just say, oh, he was just picked because Stokic is the head coach. Sure, you could say that, but I mean, legitimately, he's at that level right now. It
Yeah, don't
wasn't as simple as every Utica player was on Team Kelvin and every Comets player was on Team Pereira, because Kelvin and Everton have two Comets on their teams.
they do. They stole one off their, well, they stole two, but it would have been interesting to sit there and listen to the strategy of how they picked those players. But I do think that showed a ton of respect taking Rion first.
Well, and I've got my interview coming up with Nick Pereira for the 10 for 10 show, and I have a question about strategy. I'll be curious to see how he responds to that. But I mean, just listen to this team in terms of who you've got. You've got Pereira and Marquez up front as your targets. You've got other forwards, Zach Reggett, Ian Bennett, You got Melo from Baltimore Blast. You got Joey Tavernese. You got in the midfield, you've got a Justin Stinson. You got William Eskay. I mean, up front, they've. I mean, I forgot Don Francis.
Yeah,
So there's your options up front. Um,
I mean, I would have a hard time trying to pick who I would put out there right off the bat. Although I know I would probably start. I would combine Chad and Nacho on defense and Zach and Rion out there at the same time. But then after that, I'm not sure who else I would put out there. But I mean, Zach has played with a few of those guys too before. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, and then
SK, I think.
offensively, the other team, I think one of the big surprises was Marco Fabian dropping so late to Team Kelvin. And so
I
he
know.
may feel like he has something to prove, but you've got some of the leading scorers in the league on that other team, in addition to Kelvin, who by himself is potentially MVP. Alex Sanchez and Mario Alvarez, two of the best players for Milwaukee on that team. Benny Dantas, the other target for UCFC's there. Gordy Gerson, UCFC's there. Nilton De Andrade, who's terrific, is there too. Juan Pereira, David Ortiz. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Gordy is one of my least favorite players out there. I always have to be honest, but he was taken last. But that is, when you're taken last and it's Gordy Gerson, that's a pretty awesome amount of firepower.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, I mean, from the goalkeeping perspective, it was interesting that a little bit gamesmanship that Kelvin and Everton drafted Neto out of sequence, I guess, just to kind of like make a point to Stefan Stokic. And so Willie B will be number two goalkeeper behind Chris Toth for Team Pereira, and then Andrew Coughlin will get the start for Team Kelvin. But we'll see if Neto has a little bit to prove.
Yeah, do you know, are they going to force them to play both goalies? Like, I
Oh, I
mean,
don't
normally
know
in All-Star
anything.
games.
I don't know anything. And so I saw a graphic today that makes it seem like it's a less than four-quarter All-Star game. So I haven't seen the final details on that. So I kind of wonder if they're doing it like Kings League style, where it would be two halves and
Yeah.
as opposed to four quarters. But I guess stay tuned. We'll find out.
And then they'll have a skills competition the hour
Yep.
before it. So,
Yep. Yep.
uh, and I know that the idea is not to get anybody hurt, not to stress them too much, because some of these guys have games 2 days later. Some players pulled out because they have games coming up, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Well, I think it was easy. So there's I believe a Texas Dallas game the next night, but the logistics of getting from Utica to Syracuse Airport and Syracuse to Texas is a lot easier than getting from Syracuse to Chihuahua, where San Diego and Chihuahua are playing the next night. And so I think it was going to be a travel problem for Chihuahua's Roberto Escalante as well as three Sockers, and they made the decision not to do it. And I mean, of course, some San Diego fans expressed outrage about this, but yeah, it's not San Diego's world that we live in, and this was a good faith effort by Utica City FC and the league to put on something that fans have been
Yes.
asking for. What's pretty typical is no matter what you do, there's always going to be a complaint or 10, and this is just the latest wave.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how many All-Star game things I've sit there and listened to people complaining and actually not wanting their players to play, Mike Coon, because, they're afraid they'll get hurt and things like that. So it's, again, MASL is far from a perfect league. In fact, they could do a whole lot better at keeping some of this information on their front page and putting like the list of players, not just graphics. But anyway, that's my complaint. There's a lot of things they can do to be better, but they are still slowly progressing. And having an all-star game and a skills competition, I mean, the only reason they did it back in 2020 was because it was COVID and they were trying to get some kind of game there,
Right.
something, right? I mean, I was there. There was hardly anybody available. I had to shoot from like the upper deck or something. It was crazy. But anyway,
Well, and I saw a complaint from a fan about that game in retrospect that oh there weren't players from the Mexican teams and yada yada yada. There was barely a league that year because of COVID, and so no
right.
matter what you try, um, there's going to be criticism, and I think it's the ability to just soldier forward and move on and tune out the negativity that you can't I mean, you can't do anything about it. So, good luck to the team next year that wants to bid on the All Star game because it's going to be hard finding a week where you don't like lead into travel problems. If every team in this league had only weekend dates and where you could schedule everything on Saturday nights, say, then yeah, it's going to be clean to do a Wednesday night All Star game. On the other hand, if everybody had unlimited weekend dates and you could have a weekend All Star game, that would be terrific too. But
Yep.
if you're a team, are you going to want to say, oh, we're going to make some fans happy and we're going to schedule the 26 All-Star game on a Saturday or a Sunday. But what that means is I'm going to give up one of my prized weekend games and move it to a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Am I willingly going to want to do that as a team owner? I don't think so.
Well, not only them, but pretty much every team will have to do that.
That's my point.
I mean, yeah, it's not just like whoever hosts, it's going to be every team would have to give
But
that up when they're rare enough or hard enough to get because only one team really is the primary tenant in their own place, right?
yeah. So
We
this
should
is
host the playoffs at that spot.
hey, there you go. There you go. So yeah, I mean, I just hope that Comets fans appreciate it for what it's worth. With what we didn't mention is because of those players having to back out from San Diego and Chihuahua, another Kansas City representative was selected, and that was Nacho Flores. And so this is now the all-time Kansas City record: 6 players on an All-Star team, beating the record of 5 in that 91 MISO. At that time, it was MSL All Star game at Kemper Arena. So kudos to the Comets. Kudos to Nacho for making the cut.
Yeah, and earlier in the season, you may not have voted for him, but he's definitely come on the last few games. So it's good lineups. It's good amount of players out there. Yes, you can always argue some other players, but again, we've already covered that. I'm looking forward to it just for the fun factor of it, seeing guys. Um, they need to. It would be also good if they would like say, "Hey, is it like Team Blue versus Team Red, or is there anything they would tell us?" No, that would
Well,
be.
hey, it's Team Kelvin versus Team Pereira. So we'll see what happens after that.
They could also put it on their schedule,
Could
but no.
the other thing I would say is after the San Diego game and with All Star coming, we will be like legitimately at the halfway point of the season.
Yeah.
And so they will hit 12 games against San Diego. And you start looking at where they are year over year and then look ahead to the next 12 games. You ask me today, and they're outperforming where they were at this point last year. Ask me that question again next episode because the San Diego outcome will impact how I respond.
Well, they are ahead of where they were last year, but I think there's a lot of teams that are in a good position also.
Yep.
Um, and part of it was that they last year they had the good first 8 games, the terrible middle 8 games, and the good last 8 games, and there would be right in the middle of that terrible 8 games. But overall, they're a better team. All right, we're about to run out of time, man. Any last words?
No, other than buckle up for what'll be an exciting game on Friday night. We're back on CBS Sports Golazo Network. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Every time the Sockers come to Kansas City, I get a little bit more excited. Brings back a lot of memories, the competitive juices. But yeah, what do they say? If you want to be a champ, you got to beat the champ. And the 16-time champs are coming to town.
I think we're gonna start calling it the Comets Broadcasting Network for Golazo.
I think that Empire's on there just a bit more than we are, but hey, I appreciate that.
All right, appreciate the time, Eric, and we are out. back for another segment here on the pod. I have with me Coach Stokic. How are you today, sir?
I am good. How are you?
Not too bad. Your team is doing pretty good. 3 game win streak. I know not every game has been exactly how you wanted them to be, but just how do you feel like the team's doing over this last 3 games?
I think we're doing better. We have moments. I think that some of the games, at least one of them for sure didn't go the way we planned, but we showed that we can come back and win games, and we haven't done that yet this year in any of the games. So that was a positive, because building that winning mentality, even when things don't go your way. I think we're in a good spot. I feel like we still got to do better, with some things, but I think objectively is building that momentum, and getting those points before we get into March, because March is going to be where we have really really tough schedule. 9 games in 1 month, is and then out of those 9 games, 7 of them are away, back to back games. So it's just right now what's very important for us. We focus on these last, um, 3 games of leading up to San Diego, the fourth game of getting the points. So once we get out of this weekend, we're gonna focus on the next 5 games and go from there.
I know like I said, you've had the last 3 games are wins. Some of those games better than others, but on the positive side, like they are wins, even if they weren't the best games. But you've also got some like younger guys some time. I mean, Dirtle's come out and just been amazing. I mean, I think in this last game, Wainwright and Palma, uh,
Correct.
they played pretty well when they were in there. Eric Pereira, I thought he was playing really well. I know he's been around for a while, but he hasn't had a ton of time. So you just had a lot of guys kind of stepping up, I felt.
I did. I mean, one of the things that, and I said after the game, against the Harrisburg, the last game that we played against the Harrisburg, Heat, is one of the things that for me, what I was really proud of is that we gave minutes to some young guys and players that haven't had got a lot of minutes. I mean, you have to remember now that was Neto's second full game as well too, right? So I think there's a lot positive, especially in that game, because we gave chances to young guys that we've been working with, since preseason, and that we see a bright future with them. So it was that was especially a really really good day for us, and I was really proud of. Because remember, we have rotated, what are we, 10 games in? We have rotated 24 players to our roster. So,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And like you mentioned, Neto getting in, I thought the first half he was really good. The second half was good. Just that, they scored a couple goals in there. But I know he's been battling injuries all season, and Phillips really stepped up. So I mean, Phillips kind of stepped into that number one role. But it's not always that easy. To say one guy is number one. It's like depends on who's hot that day.
yeah, I mean, I hear everybody talk about it. I hear everybody has their own comments and the way
Of
they want to
course.
say it. I think it's a healthy battle between them. Yes, is Philip, doing great? Yes, I think Philip is stepped up even more than I thought he would. Not that I thought he would, that I thought it was going to take more time, but he really accepted the role and took full advantage of it. I'm going to be honest with you. Neto, quality keeper as well with a lot of experience. So they're both. It's a healthy competition. Is now, everybody asking is who's up and who's not, who's first, who's second. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as Philip has momentum now. He's there, and we got to get Neto up to there as well too, because we're gonna need both of them. Because every one of the things that is very important for me, and when I came here as a head coach, was to always have 2 unbelievable keepers, and I got lucky with that. And whoever is the best that we think at the moment is going to be the keeper of the game.
And having been at training and watched it, and being on the bench shooting, shooting photos from there, listening to when Phillips starting, Neto's giving advice and encouraging, and he's still being a leader when he's not out in the field, and vice versa. Philip may still be trying to learn a little bit, but he's out there doing the same thing. It just seems like I always think of competition as not always being positive, but it's a healthy competition. It felt like.
Well, that's our motto in practice is we gotta have a healthy competition, right? If for us to get better and to improve, and if we don't do it in practice, we're not gonna do it in games. So I mean, when it comes, even when you look at Neto or Philip, you can go down to the defenders. I'm not gonna name names. Defender or the midfielders that are fighting for spots, or the target players. So like in general, it is one of the things that I really appreciate from Neto this year is even though he's struggling with injuries, he took up a little bit of leadership role, like you just mentioned, and helping Philip out, and that just shows you the character of the team and the people that we have, and that's what's giving us the success that we have too as well.
And people, you say you wouldn't like mention names like defenders and midfielders and such forth, but people who aren't normally able to watch practice, I do get to come watch practice once in a while, and just seeing that competition, and sometimes it's to me watching from one practice a week maybe, the level is not that different between guys who are starting and guys who are not, and
Well, they're all fighting for a spot on the team.
right.
I mean, it's that's what you call healthy competition. Everybody's fighting. I mean, I think I've mentioned this to you before, and I've talked about it. I feel like we have a little bit more depth than we had last year. That's what we focused on this year, and the depth that we have this year. I mean, again, we don't have all experienced players, right? But the young kids that we brought in have a lot of potential and talent. So the level is very close there. They just have to, again, indoors play with a lot of experience and getting that within the practices. And I'm going to tell you, the veterans of this team, I've been helping those young guys as well, and it's a very good mixture and dynamic. I feel very happy with the players that we have in the locker room. Again, I've said this multiple times. I feel like I repeat myself, but I feel my this locker room has never been stronger and better. And just that the people that we have right now are great people, great players and professionals, trying to help these young guys understand the routines and the things that you have to do to get to that level. And to be honest with you, and the young guys are really stepping up as well too in practices. And you saw on Sunday against Harrisburg that I think they did really good. I mean, there's ways to go, there's times
Oh
to go,
yeah.
but I think for their first game, I'm not gonna take away. I mean, look at Nate. um, we brought in Nate, thinking of him being a defender, and I think we put him in one game as a defender. And then after that, we had a little problem in the midfield. We didn't have enough midfielders because of injuries and different things. So we put him in the midfield, and me and the coaching staff were like, "Whoa, we like him in the midfield." And since that moment, we were training him in the midfield. And when the moment came to put him in, I mean, what can you say? There's a little joke going around. There's nothing Nate Dirtle can't do. So, he came in against Chihuahua. Uh, scored an unbelievable goal for a rookie against a team like that. And then I think what does he have? Was in 3 games, 4 points, 5 points? I don't know yet. I can't remember right now. But in general, it just shows you the young guys that we brought in and how hungry they are and talented
Well, yeah, he had a couple goals in the game in Dallas, I believe,
too.
and yeah, so he's yeah, it shows 3 goals and 1 assist. He's, I mean, for 4 games, that's
Four points. Yeah, 4 points in 3 games. So
so doing pretty well, man. Impressive. All right, next game up though is not going to be easy. I mean, I know there's never an easy game, but from the outside looking at stats and standings and such forth, there's always going to be teams that might not be as tough. But San Diego obviously is going to be a tough game, and a team that you guys is right next to you in the standings. You want to beat. What can you tell me about them in the upcoming match?
I mean, it's gonna be a very tough match. I mean, they right now have momentum. They have great flow. They have a much better team than they did last year. And I think they're starting slowly to gel. It took a little bit of time, and I think they'll still be gelling and getting together. Again, a great mixture of players, dynamic wise. They're really well organized. I think for me is the same mentality like we go to in every game. But if we want to be champions, if we want to win, or if one of our goals is to be number one, we need to win this game, especially with us losing our game in San Diego that we didn't play so well. Made too many mistakes. If again they're a team, very experienced team with quality players. And I think for me personally, the game's gonna come down to mistakes. Who makes the least mistakes will win that game.
Do you go into these games and say, "Hey guys, hey, we got to win this game," or is it kind of like is you just take it as the next game?
I want to win every game. I don't care if we're playing, if we're playing Monopoly, or especially a soccer game. I mean, I go to every game is is a must win for us. You know, when you go down, you know, the main thing is, we're preparing for playoffs, correct? So that's your main objective, is to get the team flowing and going by playoffs as their maximum capacity, right? At their best they can be. Um, but I go in every game. I don't care who I'm playing. I want to win the game. That's number one. Um, Now every game is different. Some games you have to play differently, strategy wise, tactical wise, and that kind of stuff. You kind of build it on your opponent, but you still want to maintain your philosophy as a team of what you do, right? If that's defensively or offensively, and the patterns and the things that you want to do. But for me, any game that we play, I want to win, and especially, you know. Everybody knows that we don't make a lot of money doing this. Doing this, I played for these kind of games. I played for these moments. I played against the top teams, the play in the playoffs, play for a championship. That's the love and drive that we have for this game. So for me, again, I want to win every game, but especially the games against the top teams has always been, um, an extra motivation for me. I think it's the most difficult is the ones that you play where you think it's an easy game, mentally wise as a player,
Right.
and as a coach. For me, that's the toughest ones to coach, because you spend more of your time motivating them more than you need to, just that way we can get a result out of it. Because those games are actually, for me, most important, because if you lose those games, you're not gonna have that chance to be in the playoffs or be on the top seed, at the end of the year.
Well, that's why I kind of pointed back to the Dallas game in the other segment when I was talking to Eric about the team maybe didn't come out and play as well as they could have, or should. Well, they definitely didn't come out and play as well as they could have, but it was the mental that came through at the end, and they pulled out the win. So, again, not trying to, you know, diss
Well,
on Dallas, but
listen,
it's reality,
I mean, Dallas played an unbelievable game, by the way.
right?
They played,
And
I
they're
mean,
tough at home.
they're tough at home. They played a great game against us. We could have, in my opinion, in that first half, we put away our chances. That game would probably be done at that point, but we did not. And they took full advantage of our mistakes and their chances. But I think at the end of the day, we had about three guys thrown up sick. We traveled the same day. There was a lot of things that kind of added up to it. But again, you know me, I'm not a guy to make any excuses. But the guys found a way to win that game, and sometimes, as not sometimes, but as champions, you're gonna have those games, and you need to be able to win those games as well, and that's what we did.
Yep. Totally agree. All right. Looking forward, you have the honor of being the coach of an all-star team.
Yes,
How did it feel when you got asked to do that, I guess? Or were you
it
told you have
felt.
to?
Yeah, no, I got it was a nice call from Keith. I felt honored. You put a lot of work into what you do, and kind of getting rewarded with that is when people seeing your hard work and the things that you do. It felt good. It felt really good, and an honor and a proud moment for me, and my family. So for me, it's everything I do, I guess I want to do the best I can do, and I take it seriously, and I want to win this All Star game as well. But at the same time, I want to have fun, because I think the most thing for me actually that I'm really really proud of out of everything is I have six of my players in the All Star team, and for me, as a coach and having my players represent us there is a bigger honor for me.
No doubt. Yeah, are you a little disappointed you don't get to have all six on your team?
Yes, I was actually. The game plan was to have everybody. I got a little bit of repercussion at practice this morning, that I didn't choose two of them. But I think that objectively the goal was to do that, but it didn't happen the way it did. But they know that I love them, and it's going to be a fun experience for all of us.
Did you tell them this? I'm just trying to give you the experience of going against us.
Yes, I want them to see how it looks like.
How did you and Nick go into the this draft? Was there a logic? I mean, I know there were some rules about how you had to
Yeah,
take people, but
yeah. We did have. I mean, me and Nick talked. The previous time when we were supposed to have it, what was it, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I can't remember the date. And then we talked about it yesterday before the draft. We had a good idea what we wanted to do. We kind of, you know, we wanted just to make a fun group, and I think we went with a lot more experience. It was me and Nick battling between attackers and defenders, right? Different styles of coaching. But we looked at it. We had a little strategy to it, and try to build a team that we can enjoy coaching and have some fun and win a game.
I was just thinking, put
But when you
Nick.
look at it though, when we look at it though, they're all great players. Like
Oh
there,
yeah.
you can't go like at the end of the day is you can't go wrong. All the players that were on that list are great players. And to be honest with you, it's just a privilege for me to be able to coach some players that I've never coached before and have that opportunity. And it was just again, you can't go wrong with who you pick on that roster.
No, there's just a ton of good players. I mean, I was joking on the other segment that Gordy Gerson's never been one of my favorite players, but he was taken last, and that still is an amazing player. So
Yes,
even
correct.
though even the last guys are amazing players. I was just thinking how scary it would be to put Nick and Rion out there at the same time on a power play. They might want to get some NFL players to be the defenders at that point.
And listen, we got some big players. We got some big players. But one of the strategy was we had to make sure that we took care of their targets and Calvin. So we got we got the big dogs in the back. So that was one of the strategies.
Yeah.
And especially Nick didn't want to get kicked. So we
Who was most likely to kick him if he was on the other side
most likely to kick him that we didn't draft or that we draft.
that you drafted? Who would be most likely to kick him on anybody?
Well,
Nacho?
first of all, Nacho, Cantana, Chad is sometimes nice depending on the moment and the mood that he's in. But we took all the ones that we thought that would be the kickers. So
You do have some already built-in synergy there, though. You could have Chad and Nacho on one line back there on defense.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's some there. We're just missing a Costa Neto. So
Yeah, well, maybe you can make a last-minute trade. I don't know if that
well,
works.
we're actually working on that.
Is that breaking news for real?
Well, we're actually talking about that already. So.
Wow. All right, breaking news. Anybody listens to this, maybe I'll get this out before it becomes official. All right. After this coming game against San Diego, the All-Star game, that's going into the second half of the season after that. Just
Correct.
how good do you feel about everything?
I feel good. It's kind of like right now, we have a game against St. Louis on after this game. We have a game against St. Louis on Sunday at home. I'm kind of, again, we're gonna be missing practices in preparation for that game. So I'm not really happy with that, but it is what it is. I think we could have done better. I think we could have been in a better spot right now, in my opinion. Unfortunately, the game against Milwaukee, we should have won that game. We should have closed that game out. But then it became what it became. Um, uh, you know, Again, I feel like that game was taken away from us. Um, but I think we did it to ourselves as well because we took what was it, 4-1 in the first half, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
We should have closed that game out. And then you look at our overall overtime losses. Again, overtime is at that point is kind of, it becomes a 50-50. That one chance, that one mistake, that one opportunity. But I think right now, to be honest with you, we should have been realistically at this point, in my opinion, we should have been only at one loss if I had to be honest. And if we were at that point in the middle of the season, I would be really happy with. I'm not saying that I'm not happy right now, but I'm just saying that we could have done better. And we're in a good spot. We're still fighting for first place. I mean, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, as a team, as a franchising organization, we're happy that we're fighting for first place and that we're able to do that. But it's very important that we continue growing and getting better and on the field and off the field. But I think, objectively, our goal is that first place, and we need to win. We have to win this game coming up, the next one, and we got to keep going forward and getting better by each game.
I know you would rather just be sitting comfortably in first place, but how good is it for the league that there's at least four, maybe five teams that are competing for first place? I mean, if any team goes on a run, a team falters a little bit, you got five teams that can all step into that spot.
I think it's awesome because I think in the past years it's always like that one two teams that are always up top, or that you always oh this team is gonna finish first or
Yep.
this and that. So I hope it continues kind of like that towards the end, because it's just gonna keep it exciting. I wouldn't want to wait too long for it. I guess I would say I would like to know that first place as soon as possible. But I think for our league it's good, for the growth, because if you have five teams fighting for first place, it makes it more exciting. Now, you can go back to say whose schedule's tougher than who and who has the advantage, and you can go back and forth, and Baltimore has an easy schedule or this and that and blah. There's multiple ways you can look at it, and have an advantage. But I think, in my opinion, and I said this last year, no matter the schedule you make what you make out of it. And
Yep.
I think for me it was always important to play the top teams in preparation for the playoffs. So for me, just like last year or this year, I wanna have a tough schedule and play against the top teams, because that's what's gonna prepare us for playoffs the best.
Yeah, I mean, as the fan side of me, I kind of enjoy it, even though there's certain teams I don't want to see up there just because I have personal history with them or something. But you got your first win against Chihuahua. You've had long histories with Baltimore and San Diego and Milwaukee, especially, and over just this last few years, Utica coming into it too. It's a good competition
So
out there.
yeah, so let me ask you a question, because I feel like, right, we beat Chihuahua, right?
Yeah.
We kept them to 2 goals, um, and I don't think I remember a team keeping Chihuahua to 2 goals.
I there was I think they had a game where they were like only maybe 4 goals. I don't have it pulled up right in front of me, but yeah, I think you're the first ones to hold them to two. That was pretty
and
amazing.
nobody and nobody talks about it. Nobody raises it. And at the end of the day, is it's fine. I want my guys to give respect where it's deserved. And I feel like, even though that we beat this team, we beat Chihuahua, the reigning two-time champs, 5-2, and nobody talks about it. And for me, that's what motivates us and fuels us, to keep going forward. But it's crazy to me how we beat them, and it was a talk, but a brush talk over. It was done. Comets beat the Chihuahua. Now, if somebody else
Well,
beats the Chihuahua, it's like, they're the next big thing, but that's fine.
I'm pretty sure we talked about it on our podcast, me and Eric.
I
Um,
heard, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes, I heard, yes.
so I pointed out that you guys held them to two
I
goals.
just
That
wanted
was
to
the first
voice,
win.
I wanted to voice myself on your podcast, so others can hear my frustrations. But that's all right. We'll keep working hard, and maybe one day they will respect us. So.
No, for me it was a huge because I pointed out that it was when you have to beat the team that's above you, that's always been above you to kind of take that next step.
Next
You
step,
know,
correct.
I don't know how many times I've seen in playoffs in various different sports that you run up against a team and you lose, and you run up against a team and you lose, and then you beat them, and then you take the championship, and now they have to come after you, right? It's kind of where I felt like you guys are right now. You had to beat Chihuahua at least once in order to be able to beat them in the playoffs. We know you can beat San Diego. You did it last year, and yeah, maybe it wasn't the best game this year, but that's something you can do.
Correct.
And there's a lot of teams below you that are wanting to beat you just in a regular
Correct.
season game just to prove that they maybe can do it someday.
Correct.
I'm not saying they have
Correct.
never beat you, but the
Well,
Dallases and some of those teams. Again,
well, the
no
next
offense to
step,
them,
yeah, our next step is to beat Chihuahua and Chihuahua. Like
right?
that's the next thing, is that we have to prove to ourselves that we can overcome that challenge like we did at home. And you said it right. I mean, you have to beat the top guys to have a chance to be able to make that next step. And you're totally correct. Our next step, and I think our next step moving forward is, again, first we got to beat San Diego at home, because we can't lose twice to them. And then, again, we got to keep all these games are going to be very important. We have yes, it's St. Louis. St. Louis has been playing well lately. We got Harrisburg and Harrisburg back to back. We still got to beat. We have a rough schedule in March, so there's a lot of things that we need to achieve. But again, we have to beat San Diego on Friday, and then we can look forward to see what our next steps are. But our big statement that we need to make is to beat Chihuahua and Chihuahua.
Do you already have that date circled somewhere?
Yes, I do.
I figured you're
This
gonna
one,
like.
this one from Chihuahua home was circled for a long time once the schedule came out. It was actually circled even before after the final game. But yes, this one is circled and ready to go for sure.
I mean, it's got the potential to be an amazing game down there. We know how tough they are in any arena, but especially down there. So yeah, that will be the next step. I mean, you got to get past San Diego. You got to win the games you should win. Again, nobody's easy, and anybody can
Correct.
win on any given day. So I'm not trying to do that, but you should win the games you should win, and then these are the tough games. San Diego, Chihuahua, those are the ones that are going to always be in doubt, no matter how good you are.
Well, I mean, you got to keep there. It's a Chihuahua. It's San Diego. It's now Baltimore. They're flying. It's the Milwaukee's. Milwaukee, when it comes down to crunch time playoffs, they're always on top of their game. Um, I know I'm missing somebody else there, but at the end of the Utica is they're gonna be a team to reckon with as well. You have to win those games. Even though I don't think they're flying yet in the direction or flying colors right now, but once they get to there, they're going to be, great as well. So, again, I feel like, and I think you said earlier, there's a lot of good teams now in the league, and we're fighting for that spot. So
It's healthy for the league, not always for keeping your hairs on your head, right?
that's why I don't have any here.
Well, no offense, coach, but it's been a while since you've had some. But
Yeah, I've been coaching for a long time.
true. I was joking with Eric on the previous segment that because he pointed out that Ramon is the last player from Vlaco's championship team that's still playing on the team. And I said at some point we're going to be measuring this is the last two players that played with coach, actually played on the team with coach, and then we'll like narrow that down at some point
Yeah, I mean,
as they get older.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, he is the last player from that championship team.
One of the guys on our site, Mike Kuhn, keeps amazing stats. He's, a lot of people talk about the professor and indoor soccer and the stats he keeps with indoor stuff, but Mike keeps stats on all the different soccer teams in town. He pointed out to me, and I mentioned it to Eric, but Ramon on his next game that he plays in, which probably will be against San Diego. I know we don't, you never know for sure, right? But probably be against San Diego. He will tie the number of games that Kim Rutfed played for Kansas City.
Wow.
And
Wow.
you can look at the differences in these leagues have been 20, 24 game seasons, and those games or those leagues were 50, however many games in a season. So that's the longevity that Ramon's had, and he's also left Kansas City for a year and came back and
Correct.
missed some time with visa issues and stuff. But yeah,
Yes. So when I came in the league in 2004, it was 48 game season, I think, and then you got to put in the playoffs in there as well. So
yeah.
yeah, times have changed, but wow, how many games is that though? Do we know the number of the games?
I will post that in the article. I will
Okay.
pull that up. I don't have it in front of me,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I will post that in there. That when he plays the next one, he'll tie Kim, and
That's awesome. That's awesome.
so yeah.
Congrats.
Mike does an article every week that tells like where people have moved in those type of things. They've moved. This player has moved to fifth all time in appearances, or seventh in playoff games, or whatever. So you should check those out.
I will definitely check it out.
All right, man. I appreciate the time. Is there anything else I should have asked you?
No, I think we're just getting ready for the game on Friday.
I appreciate actually, doing the interview stuff, but I kind of like the chat more. So,
No, anytime.
all right. Well, good luck in against San Diego, and I guess good luck next week with the All-Star game.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, we are out.